Welcome everyone to my Weird Wednesday chess stream here on lichess and Twitch. International Master William Paschall. Looks good to go. We have unusual openings Weird Wednesday stream today. We've got 3 challenges already. No chess 960 today because we are playing different chess openings that we would normally play, gambits and whatnot. So there's no need for chess 960 challenges. Pure chess today. Booker Smith, Hunt the King, Mule Skinner. Hunt the King and Mule Skinner have become regulars here on the stream. We're up and running. I'm sure Jeroen will be here, our moderator. So we're going to play normal blitz classical time control, 5 to 8 minutes with a small increment. But we're going to be trying to play a different kind of stuff. So openings that we would not normally include in our everyday repertoire, basically. Let's get it started. Booker Smith is challenging me to casual 7-3, Hunt the King 8-3. If you guys challenge me, please make it a casual challenge, not rated, and include a small increment. Usually 3 seconds is good. If it's like 5 minutes, you can make the increment bigger, like a 5-second increment. Booker Smith and Virgin Ice. Welcome, people. We're going to get started. So, I'm International Master William Paschall. We're streaming from Budapest, Hungary. And we're going to open here with e4 today, game 1. We get to usually play for 2.5 hours, and typically at this time control, that means like 10, maximum 11 games, probably. So before the stream, I was thinking about, what openings I can play. I'm always thinking of including some opening I maybe haven't played before. And I thought it would be fun to play a very rare opening here. I have a friend. This is called the Portuguese opening. I have a friend who played this in some serious tournament games against players around 2200 and managed to win at least one of them. Wow, Booker Smith just didn't mess around. He does not respect the Portuguese opening. He just questioned it immediately with c6. No thought whatsoever. Good. That's probably the best move. You could consider other moves like knight f6 though. Bishop a4. Yeah, I don't really like bishop c4 here, just allowing him to play d5 right away. I think I know what I would do with black in this position. Not that. a5. I'm happy he played a5. Actually, it seems very weakening to me. I think I would have tried something different, but I'm not going to say what it is because it might influence his play in a negative way for me. I think black has better moves there instead of b5. Just a spot. Mod alert. Oh my god, you're a mod. How did you get to be a mod here, Justice Spot? Did you pirate my mod capabilities or something? What's up? Saronche. Will the real mod stand up? Bishop b4. All kinds of mods there. Wow, Booker Smith, what's that do? I'm not real concerned about this. This is a strange move. I mean, my move was strange too. So he figures that if I can do it, he can do it, right? I mean, that's fair enough. I think that's really actually pretty legit. If I can do it, he can do it. So I'm going to play knight f3. Develop the king side. And he's freezing my d pawn. It looks like he's pinning my pawn to my king. So I can't play d3 next move. Portuguese opening. It's probably not good, but it has the one advantage of taking your opponent completely out of their known territory. So I would really reserve this opening for white to play against someone who's substantially weaker than yourself. I don't think I would run this opening up against a higher rated player. Maybe if you're 2400 and your opponent is 2200 or somebody like a little bit lower rated than yourself, basically. So here I could take the pawn on e5, but I'm thinking, I usually try to do that. I'm thinking he might get some compensation. Knight takes e5 castles, and yeah, it's probably not really enough compensation. He could play also queen e7. That's gambiting the f7. I sort of doubt that's possible, but who knows? You know, knight takes e5, queen e7, knight takes f7, rook f8. He might have some kind of compensation. Knight takes f7 followed by knight d3. Knight takes f7, queen e7, or castles are both possible. I'm not really sure. If I don't take it though, maybe I should play c3 first and then take. If I play c3 first, it would negate a lot of his counterplay. Let's do that. Alright, so somewhat symmetrical position, but the inclusion of b5 I don't think really benefits black in any way. I probably could have taken the pawn on e5. It looked a little bit messy, so I'm really big on keeping complete control over the position when I can do it. I don't like to give my opponents any kind of counterplay if it's not necessary. I thought after knight takes e5, maybe castles, he has some kind of compensation. Now he's just going crazy. d5. I think he just ignored my threat of winning a piece. So I'm really gonna have to take that. I'm gonna have to take that, and I think that we're just winning. After c takes b4, we're just up a piece. I don't think he has really much of any compensation at all. So maybe he just wasn't really paying attention or something. It doesn't seem like he would intentionally... I don't think he would intentionally give that piece up. I mean, he looked at this, d takes e. I mean, maybe if I had to play knight to g1 in response, I think black might have like real compensation of some kind. But actually, looking at this, he has maybe queen d4. I mean, d takes e, knight takes e5, queen d4. I take on f7, but I'm winning. I mean, there's not enough compensation there. So, strange decision there, Bookersmith, to sacrifice that piece. Very odd. I can't really maintain this pawn here. Perhaps I should just exchange on d5. And there's nothing wrong with taking on d5. He probably takes back with a bishop. And then we have all sorts of options. Locutus de Bourg said, "Did you see I was implicated in the latest WikiLeaks revelations?" Yeah, this was my joke yesterday. I was implicating one of the ways that Karyakin could win the world championship would be some kind of WikiLeaks revelation. I guess that's what he's referring to. Yeah, you need to take back there with the piece, I think, because this way I'm just taking another chunk of material. And not just that, but like reaching a very stable position with my knight on e5. There's no complication here at all. After like queen d6, I could just even give you a pawn on b4 and play like d4 and be up a whole piece for nothing. Locutus de Bourg. I'm not going to mess around. You can have the pawn back. More development for me. I'm not a greedy guy. Like one piece is enough for me. Yeah, I was thinking of the top ways that Karyakin could possibly beat Magnus Carlsen in the World Championship match. Alien abduction. That was suggested. It was a very good suggestion. WikiLeaks could get involved. Maybe the FBI. Or maybe, you know, Carlsen could contract some sort of like deadly virus. But I mean, other than those things, I don't really see more than like a 1% chance for Karyakin. I'm not going to be tuning in live to watch the match there. It's slightly more interesting than watching Anand, you know, take a dive for $1 million. But I mean, it's not really a dive if you're going to lose no matter what, but it still feels like a dive if you didn't really try. You know, even if the chips were stacked against you. Chess is the best. Hey guys, what's up? So today is Weird Wednesday, which means that we're playing unusual openings. Check it out today. If we go back in beginning of the opening here, this wasn't just any opening, it was the Portuguese opening, bishop b5. Black played the best move with c6, but then he played, I mean, probably the best. Knight f6 is also okay, but then he played b5, which I thought that's really helping. I think here a really good move is maybe knight a6. Knight a6 with the idea of knight c5. But perhaps I have something, you know, I can play there, like weird move. Maybe d4. After knight a6. I don't know. Probably not. But anyway, let's get back to the game. We're a little short of time here. So for my next trick, we'll just develop a piece. Actually, we have a better tactical way. Justice Bot would like this. Actually, it doesn't work, Justice Bot. I wanted to make it work for you, man, but I'm not sure if it's working. I know how you like your tactics. Oh well, we might as well just trade pieces. This is better. When you're down, you know, up material, you should trade pieces. I didn't want to kind of like bring pressure to bear on d4, but it's sort of ridiculous to worry about these kind of like positional nuances when you're up a clear piece and the guy's king is in the middle of the board on c8. The slightly better pawn structure and whatnot shouldn't really be a very major part of my considerations. Better to just try to pull off a direct forced win. But I wanted to play bishop g5. Actually, it doesn't really work because of f6. And if rook c1, he has bishop c4. So it feels like kind of a fail to try to play bishop g5. Anyway, guys, you can challenge me to 5 to 8 minute games with a small increment, unrated. Booker Smith has just lost his mind now. He's and maybe now bishop g5. I like it better. But actually there he takes. Let's just play this. It's going to take a while to checkmate him here. That's the problem. The downside of knight c5, probably the best move, but it's going to take a little while. Maybe a4. I've got to open it up over there. I want to win the games as fast as possible so I can play more games, of course, kind of like if you were playing in a what is it called? Man, I'm having memory loss again. The tournaments here, like in the Roman times, gladiators and arena. There it is. That's the word. I'm like making word associations to try to remember what I was talking about. Arena tournaments, Roman times, gladiators. What's the word? Yes. I feel like I won a game show. All right. So a4. If you guys have any questions or comments, please, feel free to just jump in and mention it in the Twitch chat. We're Sledgy on Twitch, Sparkle Horse on lichess. If you want to challenge me, you can click on my name on lichess, my Sparkle Horse name, and challenge me directly that way. Yeah, so the World Championship match, kind of a fail, I think. But we'll see. Maybe it'll turn out to be a close match. I don't really think so. I mean, it'll never be like, Carlsen will just win every single game or something. He's going to allow draws and he might lose a game here or there, but it's not going to be it's not going to be really a question, I don't think. But it might be better than the Anand matches. I think the important thing is that Karyakin actually, has some self-confidence, so maybe he's going to put up a little bit of a fight. Yeah, this is a stupid move, bishop d2. I should probably just win more material with bishop a4. I wanted to just finish my development. Play for mate, too, would be good. We almost have it. Like, queen takes g4 and bishop f5. We could sack our queen here just for fun. It's going a little far. I'm having hallucinations, I think. Oh, well. Always take your opponent seriously. I was almost going to sack my queen there, and then I was like, look, I'm not setting a good example. Let's bear down and just try to play sensible moves. Because I started hallucinating that I had a bishop on c2 going to f5. That's the first game of the stream, guys. I woke up not that long ago, and I'm still finishing my coffee, so I do sometimes forget like where some of the pieces are. I guess we'll just take the material. Rook takes a7 is pretty strong as well. But this is more material. Looks good. Super Patser still be good chess. Grammatically correct. And rook e1. Ooh, he's got a defense to that though. So many ways to win here. How about go for the end game? The bishop and knight are hard pieces to coordinate, difficult pieces to coordinate, really. But here we have a good case of bishop and knight coordination. These guys actually work together. Yeah. That's kind of maximum bishop-knight coordination. You can't get away here. I said it like a Canadian. Bishop d6, yeah, a little loopy today. All right. So that was 26 moves. It felt like about 40. Booker Smith, you need to hold on to your pieces. You're not, you're not holding on to your pieces. The minor pieces are really valuable. Too generous sacrifices there. So Hunt the King is up next. He's a little more circumspect. You're welcome for the game. Now, we're going to troll me again, where I'm white every game. Let's see. Let's try d4, and we've got to find something a little off the wall. But I don't want to play e4 every game. I want to mix it up. We can also play unusual first moves like f4. For me, that's unusual. c3, a3. I don't know. b3 is a little too mainstream. I wouldn't really consider b3 to be an unusual opening. Kind of on the cusp. Here we could play the Trompowsky. This is so popular though. It feels like a mainstream opening. I don't want to play like total garbage. The Portuguese opening I played last game is pretty garbage, but it's really not a weakening move. So if I think the Portuguese for something like that where you don't make any pawn weaknesses is much better than like doing something crazy like g4 in this position. I don't want it to turn into a stream where I'm just playing ridiculous openings. So here we could play like the Veresov. What else? Really only the Veresov comes to mind against knight f6. Let's try that. That is practically a mainline opening lately too. We could play some funky version of it, perhaps. You could play like, well, we could play, yeah, I could play here e4, but it's kind of a weird version of the Black Mardimer because he can take with a knight. You know, I don't think this is a great black Mardimer. You can take with the knight, and that's not what you want. You know, when you're playing a pawn sacrifice gambit type opening, you don't really want to trade pieces. So bishop g5 or f3 here. But f3 has some problems. Bishop f4 is another move that's actually a sort of London Veresov hybrid. Queen d3 looks pretty funkadelic. Could definitely think about that. Not really inherently correct move. The bishop g5 just goes into a kind of standard Veresov Trompowsky. Hunt the king. Bishop g5 is the best. This isn't an unusual opening in itself, but for me it's an unusual opening. Because I never played the Trompowsky or the Veresov. You gotta sleep now, Booker Smith. I'll see you later, man. Was talking about the World Championship. Yeah, I was definitely referring to the World Championship. Oh, still be good chess. I understand. Yeah, man. I mean, of course. I expect a lot from the World Championship, though. We haven't had a good one in a while, though. People, you know, of the younger generation, I mean, you know, when was the last, like, pretty good World Championship? Like, when Kramnik played Topalov? I mean, it was, like, marred by allegations of toilet cheating and stuff, but at least, like, it was, like, a close match that was very hotly contested and very interesting, you know, where two players were close. And when was, you know, a great, epic World Championship? I mean, like, Leko Kramnik wasn't bad, but really, seriously, Kramnik-Kasparov, the last great World Championship match, when was it? Seriously. It's like a joke. I mean, you'd have to go back to, what, Anand Kasparov? Not, you know, you'd have to go back literally to, like, the last Kasparov-Karpov match or something. I mean, it seems to me that there hasn't been a truly good World Championship match since Kasparov and Karpov played. Bishop f5? Okay. I play this line for black, but I play c5. Bishop f5 is fine. Of course. And I don't really know the theory here. Let's try f3. Although f3, is he going to switch gears and play c5? c5 and then bishop f5 don't really mesh for black. I mean, e3 is certainly a normal move, but it's not very combative. Gladys Troll, I request a game without castling. Who's the strongest player never to become World Championship? Bent Larson, in my opinion. Well, there's a whole host of strongest players never to become World Champion. Starting with, like, let's see, Bronstein, Kyrgios, Korchnoi, Larson is pretty close. You could make a lot of arguments for all those players. I mean, Schlechter drew a World Championship match. He was on the verge of winning it. But objectively, the strongest one of all of them is the question. It's very hard to compare players from different generations. A lot of people would argue Korchnoi, but I don't know. I think it's probably Rubinstein, in my opinion. Um, Rubinstein was like destined for a world championship match that never occurred because of World War, and he was never the same like afterward. He was psychologically devastated. But if the match had taken place with Lasker, I mean, anything could have happened. But it's very hard to compare like Rubinstein to Viktor Korchnoi. Players from like a 30 or 40 year generation gap. So many great players. Hunt the king here. Yeah, I don't know. I guess c6, man. I mean, you're playing the Slav, right? I wouldn't really spend too much time on this. h6 is not that stupid. Because if I give up my bishop, it's a big concession. I'm not really fond of this idea. You'd be surprised how often Trumpowski players don't want to trade this guy. Bishop h4 is... But in particular after f3, you guys have to consider the ramifications of my position on my dark squares. When I play f3, I'm weakening the dark squares. If he had played h6 the move prior, I probably would exchange on f6. But once I played f3, the whole situation changes, and my dark squares are weak. So I don't really want to give up that bishop. It's kind of like similar to the Roy Lopez or something. White plays c3 on the queen side. In the Lopez, suddenly the exchange variation doesn't look as promising as it used to. So I don't know. Bishop f4, bishop h4. I don't know, when does the World Championship start? I guess pretty soon, right? I don't think I could handle like the World Championship and the U.S. presidential election at the same time. Too much, too much excitement for me. Bishop f4. It is November, I have to refresh my Twitch stream. If you guys lose your Twitch stream, just refresh. Just try refreshing, because sometimes it just goes down the connection. G5, man, that's similar to what we saw from. I think very similar to what we saw last game from Mr. Bookersmith. A lot of weakness. You're creating a lot of weakness in your position with G5. Why do you want to do that? Bishop e5 looks nice, but it allows knight bd7, and that is a little odd. So I think I'm going to lean toward this retreat here. I was working on a project for someone, analyzing their games. And this is an interesting thing. What I realized is how important fundamentals really are. Doing this extensive analysis for a fairly advanced player. He wants me to help work out like what he's doing wrong in chess, and I expected to come up with some very specific like weaknesses in his game. But what I found is actually probably the case for everybody. It's really, I think, about like keeping classical fundamental principles in mind. That's the most important thing you can do in chess. Control of the center, not creating weaknesses, keeping your king safe. Probably if you just had like no other book and just studied like Lasker's Manual of Chess, like a Bible. You could get to like 2200. it was never a book that I really studied, but thinking about the logical approach of Alaska, probably not bad. I mean, just this very, very fundamental kind of classical, fundamental respect for the important general principles of the game is enough, to get you to be a strong player. But G5 and like B5, these moves that we encountered in the first two games, that is a serious weakening of your position and your pawn structure, and potentially the place where you would normally put your king. So now A6. Here I was thinking about like really turning it into a kind of gambit. A6 is not a bad move. It's time consuming and it makes me want to open up the game. I could try it, maybe E4, but E4, pawn takes pawn, bishop C4, something like that, just developing quickly, but I'm not that convinced that that's the way to approach this. Maybe queen D2. Thinking about castling queenside. I'm not committing myself to it. Oh, this is somewhat of a positional game. I mean, G5 doesn't lose. It's not like a losing move. Just, I don't think that it's a good idea. I think it's more destructive than constructive. World Chess Championship held from 11th to the 30th of November. So guys, I'm going to be away actually between November 17th and 24th. So while I'm not streaming during that time, you guys can, for the first half of the World Championship, well actually, the middle portion, you guys can keep yourselves entertained with that event. H4. Opening up to king's side. Well, other than G5, I like what black's done here. Knight BD7 is interesting. Supporting C5, he stopped knight B5. I'm running out of time. Maybe I should have gone for this E4 gambit before. Kind of interesting. But I think here, maybe it's time to try to stir the pot a little bit. I'm not developing my pieces with H4 either. So anyway, okay, it's not my argument that G5 is like a losing move, but I don't think it's a good idea. It definitely creates counterplay for me. I don't know where black's king's going to go ultimately. I can castle on the queen side. I have to be a little careful though. He's sort of setting up C5 and play along the C file. Rook G8. This is a natural move. Rook G8, and he's just avoiding the danger there. But he can't castle king side. It looks a little like a Dutch type of anti-Dutch with bishop g5. He hasn't played f5, but these anti-Dutch variations have a lot of this g5 and h4 and g5 and exchange and take over the h file. I think black's only slightly worse here. It's probably perfectly playable position. I feel like I should have played something more direct after the early g5. I let black off the hook here to a large degree. Really let him off the hook. Very little doubt about it. Black might even be, I hate to say it, black might be better now. Because I've screwed this up. Tried to click on my bishop. Put the queen on c7. Man, that is terrible. We both played very, very unconvincingly here. G5. God, there's got to be a way to take advantage of this. Maybe I should go for bishop e5 right away. And then knight bd7. I didn't see anything clear. I looked at e4. That's what I missed, probably. I should play bishop e5, knight bd7, and e4. And I was looking for something fancy, but probably bishop e5. He can also play bishop g7. Although, yeah, still he could play bishop g7 there. Maybe that's not so bad. e4. There should be something really good for white. And I did not find it. And I let him completely equalize. I wouldn't call it an equal position, but black had totally reasonable chances there. I thought you had knight b6 and knight c4 threats. Black might even be better, even with the king. Both are kings in the center. Silly Turtle says, World Series of Poker main event still going heads up after 9 hours. Wow. November 9. They're still doing that. I wasn't even thinking about it. I've been playing so little online poker that I don't think about the World Series of Poker in November. I didn't realize they were still doing the November 9. Okay. Jeez. Yeah, I'm gonna play EPT Prague in November. December. But probably just like a lot of side events, not like a main event. I don't want to invest that much money in one tournament. So I'm not even really playing lately. But that's cool. Yeah, tiring just to watch sometimes, whether it's chess or poker. Mule Skinner. All right, back to e4. It's so hard to get these kind of unorthodox openings with d4. I feel like the French. Oh no. All right. So against the French, it's hard to get unorthodox, unusual opening. Definitely. Let's go with the old Chigorin. This is always cool. Am I aware of the Urasov Gambit? Of course. Yeah, it's this line in the Petrov, right? That seems like kind of sound for white. So it's all like pretty deeply analyzed, I think. Danielos. It's probably like worked out to some sort of equal position, I imagine. I don't know. Maybe black has a way to get a slight advantage. I don't know. Urasov Gambit is against the Petrov. But I guess it can be reached by like a bishop's opening move order, or even like d4. e4, e5, d4, pawn takes pawn, bishop c4 kind of thing. Knight f6. That sort of stuff. I had a game on the stream one time. Okay, so c5. Emil Skinner moves this into the realm of the Sicilian. So we're playing basically what they call we're going to try to steer this into what they call like the big clamp kind of setup. But it's been a while since I played one of these. I have to make sure I feel comfortable with what's going on here. White has to keep the position pretty much closed with the early queen move. We don't want it to open up drastically. G3. There may be other moves for white. C3, D3. Yeah, I'm actually wearing a Poker Stars shirt. I hate Poker Stars, but I just kind of like the shirt because it says Slaggy on it. So I don't want to throw it away, but I don't want to do like advertisement for poker site I don't really support. Knight to c6 is threatening knight d4. I can't really avoid this c3. I can't allow knight d4. I could play knight f3 here, though. But, well, I mean, knight f3 is probably the main move, actually. We transpose to a normal King's Indian attack. It's just that after that move, we lose the ability to play f4, which is kind of fun. So it's really c3 or knight f3. I mean, I guess you could let the knight come into d4 because it's arriving pretty early, isn't it? Then it's going to get kicked out. So there you see, like, my unfamiliarity really with this kind of position. We probably can allow knight d4. In fact, it's interesting. f4, knight d4, then go back to d1 and kick the knight out. But I think knight f3 is probably more of like a standard King's Indian attack. Chess noob here. Are the games just 8 minutes? Who is that? Thug Scry 2. So no, it doesn't have to be 8 minutes. You can challenge me to 5 minutes to 8 minutes. Anything in between 5 minutes and 8 minutes with a small increment. So anything between 5 and 8 minutes base time with a 3 to 5 second increment. But I prefer that the longer time controls, like 8 minutes, get really long. So we don't need a 5 second increment in those games, like a 3 second increment max. If you challenge me to 5 minute blitz chess, then I would say the 5 second increment is totally okay. So we erred on the side of caution here with knight f3 and not opening up f4 and weakening the pawn structure a lot. Black's position looks pretty standard. I don't really think that d6 is necessary. But it's probably not a bad move. Now white can try to kind of transform the pawn structure, perhaps to a c3 d4 based thing. But I'm honestly not used to playing the King's Indian attack with the queen on e2. This is Igor Foigel's specialty. Ukrainian IM who moved to the United States years ago influenced me quite a bit. He's a very strong player. Now he's up in years and he doesn't play much anymore, but he had a lot of these games with Queen e2 that I saw him play, King's Indian type attack. He was very good Petrosian style kind of King's Indian attack player. You don't see a lot of strong King's Indian attack players. Bishop g7. So I guess c3. We'll transform the pawn structure. I don't really like, the idea that black can like play b5, b4, and break up my structure here in the center. So we have this Worrell attack sort of thing that we can do. Now everything's changed again. So he's played e5, and the position transforms to a, I'll call this the Botvinnik pawn formation for black. Dvoretsky and I worked on this together personally. He taught me how to play this setup with black, basically, against the King's Indian attack. So Mule Skinner's setup is a good one. Now, this is an unusual position with the, I think with the queen on e2 here. I don't know if there's any way I can sacrifice a pawn. Try to get some sort of activity, like rook d1 and d4. I'm running out of time, but I don't want to play routinely, because if you play routinely for white in these kind of positions, you just end up, you can just end up worse. Well, this move is constructive. It can help support d4. You can also go to c4. I like the way that Mule Skinner turned this into this Botvinnik type formation, though. Seems like a very good way for black to play. I do that often with black, even if it involves losing a tempo with d6, or rather e6 and e5, as it did here. It's not really that relevant. It's a relatively closed position, so he can kind of afford, he can kind of afford to lose that tempo. Now maybe d4. Not really sure. I don't have a lot of time. Playing for d4 really looked like the right and most aggressive idea. We basically have a standard position, except for the fact that I played queen e2 relatively early, and that isn't necessarily the right square for my queen. I don't think it can really be determined where the queen belongs this early in this variation of the King's Indian attack. The best formation against this Botvinnik type of pawn structure is actually a3 and b4 for white on the queen's side to lever the c5 pawn. But I'm not set up for that kind of formation. Although b5 looks kind of okay, but it's not really the normal plan. The bishop is closed, so you don't have this raking the long diagonal b5, b4 kind of Sicilian type of play. I don't think the b5 is necessarily a bad move, but it wouldn't be my choice for black in this position. So we have a Petrosian type of King's Indian thing going on here. Knight h4. Interesting. Thematic. Control of d5. Petrosian loved to have his knight on e3 in the King's Indian attack. And he played a lot of wonderful games with white in such openings. His hit notes, good morning. You've seen queen e2 against e6, d5. Because you can hit with c4. But against e5 and c5, it's a French hit notes. No, it's not really good. And I was just talking about that in this type of a King's Indian attack. To have the queen committed so early to e2. It's not the best, or it's not clear where the queen belongs, basically. I was just talking about that. I don't know if you heard me or not. It started out as a queen e2 Chigorin French. Okay, so here black has quite a few weaknesses on the white squares. So that should at least give me some decent chances. This is not something I really want to see. f4, if I can avoid it. So I can play f4 myself, but I have to calculate it carefully. It's probably okay. It's a little dicey because of my knight hanging on h4. I'm not at all sure about this, but it also blockades his pawn on f5. My position is fairly tight, though. I don't have that many weaknesses. He has more weaknesses than me. I think e6, d5, b5. We would like to complete development with bishop d2 and rook e1. Obviously, haven't had time to do that, but I don't want to see f4 by black. Nice big yawn for you guys. But it's an exciting position. I don't know why I'm yawning. It's not about the game. So, anyway, guys, welcome. Unusual opening stream. So I play Chigorin French with e4, e6, queen e2. Black played c5. I decided to transpose to a kind of King's Indian attack, but you know, maybe I should play f4 and turn it into instead like a big clamp, closed Sicilian type of thing. I just kind of randomly decided to play it like a straight up King's Indian attack. I do know players, as I mentioned, Igor Foigl, not a household name, but a local New England GM strength player who never got the title. Basically, he played around 2,500 FIDE strength. He would play oftentimes Queen E2 type of King's Indian attacks with good results against anybody below GM strength. But I don't know the subtleties really well enough. Black's choice of this setup was a good one, but normally we don't play b5 and bishop b7. When I worked with Dvoretsky on this variation, he was teaching me, you know, the classical formation like bishop e6, queen d7. You don't weaken the queen side with b5. Okay, now black's completing his development. My queen is a little uncomfortable here, so I'm going to play queen h5. Discards the knight on h4, and it gets my queen off the e file. He's going to be coming like this, so we also have, obviously, you know, a lot of guys lining up on this f5 pawn. So it's not out of the question that I might pick that off at some point. Not so easy to do. I don't really want to take on e5 necessarily, because it might give him counterplay along this file, or, you know, just bring his pieces. This is a very passive move by black. I could play a lot of things here. Knight takes f5, knight takes a5. It doesn't work. But his queen is almost overloaded in this position. I suppose I could have taken on e5 there, but this looks like he's overloaded now. Knight takes, yeah. I mean, because of the long diagonal. No, I really think that you just don't do b5. Not that it's not possible, but not really the plan. You know, you want a compact formation for black with bishop e6, queen d7, rook a e8, and no b5. And the idea is to play on the king side, in the center and the king side. Not so much the queen side for black in this variation. In this defensive setup for black. So rook b8, we're taking this very valuable bishop off. And then rolling with f5, it looks like it's over. Black's just lost. Completely lost. So it takes a lot of practice to really learn, you know, a complete kind of setup against the King's Indian attack. But I think that the pawn formation, the Botvinnik pawn formation setup, as Muleskinner played here originally, is quite good. Knight f7 now. How do I checkmate you here? Not really sure. Just like my chances, though. Now, rook h8 is, or h6 are only, now rook h8 looks like kind of the only move now. This is really nasty. So things did not go well. Constant change. And and Liberian are challenging. That's it. We have just 2 challengers for Weird Wednesday. Where are the challenges today? Guys, we have time for probably like 6 games. So we can take some more challenges. If not, I have to dig into the random pool of lichess seekers. That's fun too, though. Alright. I'm getting white again? Are you guys doing this to me again? Seriously? Why are you giving me white every game? I don't mind playing white. I wish that's a utopian dream I've had before, to be white every single game. I wish that you guys would arrange that for me in my like Hungarian team championships and stuff. Just be white every game. I would get to 2,500. That would be awesome. If I was white every game, I would easily get to GM title. E4. So last time I played the Portuguese opening kind of on a lark. Let's constant change. I don't remember playing against him. It's been a long time. We just had a King's Indian attack, so I'm not going to do something weird like G3. That's enough King's Indian attack. Oh, somebody was talking about the Yaroslavl gambit, right? I just don't know the theory there at all. I don't know the first thing about playing that. I guess like D4, pawn takes pawn, bishop C4. We could try it. Just play on complete instinct. I don't know any theory. A little bit, actually. I know from Black's perspective. But I'm not sure technically the Yaroslavl gambit isn't like E45, knight F3. No, this is it, I guess. It can be reached by a Petrov move order, I thought. Maybe I'm crazy. Is this a Yaroslavl gambit? Well, knight F6 definitely is. But I'm kind of spacing what I'm supposed to play here. I guess I'm supposed to play knight F3. Watch the IM play random gambits he's never played before. Familiarity means a lot to me, so it's definitely hard to adjust. I've probably been black in a handful of games in this position, but never with white. And queen takes d4 is just stupid. Black plays knight c6. And then I have like a bad center game. So we could play c3 and turn it into a weird like Danish. e5, d5, obviously. e5, d5 is fine for black, I would think. So that doesn't leave us with too many options, does it? I mean, I think we have to play knight f3. His note says the usual move order is e4, e5, bishop c4, knight f6, and then d4. You're correct, sir. You're correct. Against the bishop's opening, knight f6. It's just, it feels like a Petrov to me. But that's what most Petrov players, and I have myself. I don't want to hover the mouse over the resign button. Okay, so now we're playing the Gingy Hashvili videotape opening. Great. This is never something I had much faith in for white. But I guess I can just do it. I've seen it so many times. Yeah, e5, d5, bishop b5, right? I actually was like playing side by side with Roman Blitz games on the internet like 20 years ago, and watching him play these ridiculous variations with computers he had actually played countless games with, and he would play them again and again and again, like hundreds of games, to the point where he would play the same computer, like down the line, I don't know, 25 moves deep, having figured out that it was like a slightly better ending or something. And the stupid computers of that time, like 20 years ago, wouldn't change their openings. They would just keep playing the same line. So he would actually, in some cases, play these computers and gain rating points by like drawing or beating them in some variation that was like 25 moves deep. But my memory on this is pretty thin. So what is it, like bishop takes c6 and then f3? No, that allows queen h4 check. Bishop takes c6 castles, right? And then we start the start of the Gingy Hashvili videotape variation. Black should be okay. It's just a matter of like memorizing a certain amount of lines, I think. It's not really dangerous for black, this position. It is dangerous if you don't know the theory. Yeah, I can't play f3 right away because of queen h4 check. So, but this knight has to be prepared to evacuate. And basically the whole game kind of revolves around the potential of these pawns for white, the f pawn and the e pawn. I think bishop c5 is probably the main line. I'm actually making Gingy type of throat clearing noises too. That's very strange. Again, I never played this line, but it's in there in my repressed memory somewhere. I'm pretty sure bishop e3 is main line. But, you know, it's not a line that I ever really studied. I never had a real belief in this for white. It's okay for white. I've had a lot of friends and students who played it, but it's nothing great. Now f3 is not the only move, I think. But it must be the main line. But Constant Change, I don't remember him, who he is exactly. Sorry, Constant Change. I mean, I know you've been on the stream before. We've played like 5 times, but I don't remember any information about you, so maybe you're from the US, though. I can't recall. I don't recall our games. It's been a while, I think. One thing that white would like to do is like maybe do some sort of blockade type of strategy on the dark squares. So b4 would be a move you would like think about around here, probably. Queen d2, but it gets in the way of development and stuff. Queen d2, knight e6. I don't think that really helps me. I guess f4 and then knight d2 is the main line. If I'm not mistaken, we go f4 now. Then the knight comes back. And then we challenge it. Probably you can play knight c3 too in this position if I'm not, as I said, mistaken. But I'm pretty sure knight d2 is the main deal. Now what happens if knight b3 there? I mean if c5 for black? His pawns get a little loose in some variations, so I guess we're following like the mainline book recommendation here. I don't know. This has to be kind of standard. Not really an unusual opening, but it is for me. You know, I actually I bought my first car from this place. It was like they had these cars that were, you know, like not new but used, pre-owned cars. It's kind of like that, you know. This for me, it's like a pre-owned car. It's not new, but it's new to you. And knight b3. And black has to take care with the structure here. I'm not sure if c5 is really good or not. c5 d4, bishop f2. Then like we try to like chip it away. But on the other hand, I have to watch out for things. Running a little low on time, so constant change may or may not, you know, may or may not know a lot of theory here. But it feels okay for white. Both sides' pawn structures a little bit fragile. Bishop c6 now. Looking at the long diagonal and mate or whatnot. And we blockade. c4, trade queens. This is a dangerous bishop on the long diagonal, but his other bishop is dead. So it's pretty, I'm taking away the d5 square there from him. I talked a lot about Roman Djigiashvili today for several reasons, but he was a big influence on me, and his style always attracted me because it's very Nimzovichian in style. We have very similar kind of. He's strong tactically, but also very positional, kind of universal, but appreciation for the principles of Nimzovich. Very into blockade. This position could turn against black if those, you know, if the second bishop isn't really able to play an active role. At the moment, though, black has a beautiful single bishop. Mine isn't so great. His isn't so great. What do you think about 97 instead of 94? Liberian, I don't know. Gotta have faith in Gingy. Well, I mean, I know the setup's tried and tested. He's playing for mate. That's hard to argue with that. I have the interesting move here, knight a5. Don't like that. Don't want him to trade his bad bishop. Yeah. Okay, we have a problem with the white squares a little bit here. Is he gonna castle queenside or something? Psycho. There's queen g4. I mean, that's a really nasty sort of thing. Played bishop b7. Well, I've got to be able to protect this pawn on g2. Queen c6. We're overprotecting our strong point. But we have the mobilized pawn duo, you know, so castle's queenside is solid. But I mean, f5, okay, is f5 a mistake or is it a good move? I mean, I think it's a good move because my bishop comes to life. Yeah, he can do things that he wouldn't be able to do otherwise, but I think we're on the right track here. I'm not saying that I'm winning or anything like that. It's a pretty complex position. But I'm under huge time pressure, so I'm not sure about this. Queen a4 is a really interesting move. 20, 19, 18. Oh. Constant change. What is that a reference to? Yeah, this is not a position where I want to have to play on my increment. I mean, I really need more time, so it's a disaster that I allowed knight a4 actually. Knight takes d4. Take, take. I think I have to do this here. Where's Lou Barlow's soul? Now I can't get this Sebadoh out of my head. Looks like we're dropping a pawn here. Yeah, he's playing pretty much perfectly. Maybe we're not dropping a pawn? That's good. I thought we were dropping a pawn. We have some play, though. Unclear. It looks pretty drawish, actually. I guess we're slightly better. We just have no time. But objectively, it's probably a draw anyway. But this whole variation is probably a draw. I would imagine. I mean, if you analyzed it to death with the computer, it would be really balanced. It feels that way, you know. But I think that it's a good recommendation for, like, class level players. Because objectively, b3 here. Kind of ironic because I'm actually undoubling his pawns for him. This is just a draw. I did the gingy sound again. He always does this throat clearing sound. What am I doing? Probably not the best. Put my pawns on. Which color? I don't know, man. This looks like a draw. Yeah. Okay, good game. Thank you. No time to think there. Liberian's up 6-2. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that was kind of weird. I thought I might have been worse with a powerful white squared bishop. But if I had blockaded with knight c1 first, not allowing queen a4, I think that was really my biggest mistake, was allowing him to play queen a4. Because after that he had all sorts of play. If I had played my intention, which was to play knight c1 earlier, things might have been different. You know, I bring my knight to the center, blockade with d3, a la Nimzovich or Gingy if you want, and maybe white is slightly better. Once he plays queen a4, I thought it had gotten like out of control. Why didn't you take the bishop on f5? The rook on f2 was pinned by the bishop on c5. King's Gambit. I thought like we have to play King's Gambit, so I'm getting you guys like making me play white every game again. Let's play bishop c4. We haven't done that, I don't think. Have we? Have we played this in a stream? I don't know the theory very well. I used to play this in Blitz when I was maybe around 2100, quite a bit. I don't think the queen h4 is really a great line. I think you should play d5 there and give the pawn back. I mean, that's pretty much considered to be... Okay, queen h4 is fun and interesting, but I think objectively, I like d5. Never bathe twice in the same river. Does that count for bathtubs too? Or rivers. Hard to come by rivers. I mean, that's sort of reasonable. I mean, you don't see a new river every day. It'd be quite a bit of traveling to do that. King f1 though. I saw, what did I see recently? Oh, I was preparing for one of my opponents in the Hungarian Team Championship, and I saw there was like this youth tournament under World Junior under 16 or World Youth under 16, and my opponent, who's a really solid player, this guy Havashi Gergo from last Sunday, faced some guy who played the like Steinitz variation, you know. So instead of bishop c4, knight c3, queen h4 check, king e2. That seems like a really crazy thing to play in like a serious tournament for white. Well, the queen is getting kind of boxed in. Knight f3, obviously queen h5. We're probably following some really old school game here. Now my queen is unprotected if he pins it with queen h5. But here, I don't know. I mean, should I play e5 or just develop? I mean, e5, d5, black always has some kind of counterplay. So it seems better to just develop your pieces. This is a fairly fast game though, 6-2. I have to be careful. I've been getting in time pressure a lot, and playing unusual openings doesn't really help the speed of my play. I have like hiccups for some reason. Knight to c6. d4, knight takes d4. No, there's no tactics. I'm just getting the full center now. After d4. But it's by no means forced. I could try to play more conservatively with like d3. However, then g5. Life gets very complicated with there's also the crazy possibility of like knight to b5, but I think that's getting off track. You know, you're losing control of the center. Knight to, yeah, never mind. d4. If g5, maybe e5 here. Queen e1 is an interesting maneuver. Opposite the black king. Something to be said for that. But not if he gets away and castles quickly. Alright, I don't know. I really don't know. We're having fun at least. I could always bring the bishop back and try to embarrass his queen on h5. So d6 is solid, preparing bishop g4. We might be needing to play that retreating move pretty soon. I don't know. I feel like Steinitz here. Liberian is developed. His queen is awkward, but now bishop e2, I guess. So we have a good center. Now, if black plays too routinely, it could be really ugly really fast. Because the center is so dominant and the queen is in an awkward position. I'm not threatening anything at the moment, but next move I will be. I'm not really sure what he's supposed to do about it. Make some kind of concession. I mean, that's probably what's going to happen here. Black's going to have to make some kind of concession. You can guess what that is. What would Morphy do? Well, I think we ask ourselves what Steinitz would do. Steinitz loved to play the King's Gambit. Yeah, I mean, black didn't really get enough center here. The castling by hand concept. He's pretty much forced to exchange on f3. There's no argument that I have positional advantage now. Almost trapping his queen, in fact. e5, pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn. And bishop h5. He gets away, though. We have bishop e4. It looks really scary for black. We don't have a lot of time. He has this bishop check on c5. That's probably not that dangerous. But I am more concerned about like e5, pawn takes pawn, rook d8. So maybe I shouldn't rush it here and just build up more slowly. Can we like trap his queen slowly? I don't know. A lot of pressure on my d4 pawn. Not a lot of time. I'm not convinced by e5. Take, rook d8. It looks like black has some counterplay there. I'm kind of loosening my position a bit. This may look a little odd, but I don't want the knight coming to b4. I might put my queen on d3, reinforce both central pawns, and try to keep it kind of simple. a3 is kind of a slow move, but we're getting low on time. I need to do something. Actually, ooh, I had a more interesting move. Kind of double-edged, though. h4. Or g4 with the idea of h4. It's really risky. h4, h5. Just running out of time here. G4, just gaining space, maybe. Rook F1. Nothing fancy, just getting my rook in the game. But I think when you're short of time, you should really avoid complicating and be practical. I have a central advantage here. I mean, there's really no doubt, so there's just no reason to do crazy stuff. Some kind of trick here, a tactical trick with like knight e5, it looks like. Probably doesn't do a lot, though. I'm going to ignore it. He can try knight e5. I'll just ignore it if he does that. Got just 8 seconds. King h2, probably not a great move, but not a terrible move. Just trying to keep the position. Like, there's absolutely no space here. Just getting suffocated. Bishop on f8 is particularly bad. I thought he could have gone for knight takes e4. I probably shouldn't have allowed that. This is kind of dicey. I decided to keep the spatial advantage. Wow, c5. I thought d5 was your big chance there. Now it looks really problematical for black. What a defense. Wow. I try pre-moving. You guys know I'm an expert with the pre-move. So good game, Liberian. You defended well, but it was very passive. It's pretty unpleasant. Hizit Nunes, Arcs 205. Trinaran, I've never played before. He's challenged me to a weird time control of 10-10. That's too much. Trinaran, if you want to play, please re-challenge me to like 8-3 or something. That's the maximum that I can play with my time limitations here. Artem 555 is good. Max 55 is okay. So I just have to ask Trinaran to re-challenge me. Before I start with Hizit Nunes, I want to mention my YouTube channel, Video Chess Training on YouTube. I upload all the videos there, as well as other independent videos I've created, and sometimes like reviews. I do a simul on Sundays. Every Sunday here on lichess at 6:30 p.m. Central European time. So check that out on Sunday. Also, if anybody can donate to support the stream via PayPal, I really appreciate it. It will allow me to continue to do this going into next year, and as well as supporting my YouTube channel. So even if you can just afford like a small donation to support me, really appreciate it, guys. And those of you that have, much appreciated. What else? Every day we're here Monday to Friday, 10 to 12:30 Central European Time. So today is unusual openings, supposed to be unusual openings. We're going to play lichess. Yeah, you guys are trolling me where I'm white every game again. I don't know why we're doing that again. Don't feel obliged to have to challenge me that you're black. So the theme of the day is unusual openings that I don't usually play. We played all sorts of weird stuff. It's easier to play weird openings with e4 though. It's harder to do it with something like d4. So I guess we'll continue the theme. The Inaron challenge is rated. Trinaron. Oh, Trinaron. That's his new challenge. That's his new challenge? He was the one that was 10-10 before. Trinaron, I'm sorry to bother you again, but we're playing unrated casual games with a maximum time of 8-3. So try it again. Make it 8-3 unrated. Now, before I play knight f3, we're supposed to be playing something unusual here. So, against lichess, I'm not going to take like psychological factors I know about different players here into consideration. I'm going to just play it like the main focus is on not playing the opponent, but playing something unusual in the opening. What can we do against the this actually became somewhat trendy, a3. And lichess plays what I play, g6. I think that's a good answer, a nice simple answer against a3, because b4, bishop g7, rook a2 is a bit odd for white. I'm going to transpose to some kind of setup with like bishop c4. That makes a3 somewhat relevant. It's basically like I'm playing black in this position. It's sort of a defense with white, not necessarily like aiming for any opening advantage, but just getting a position that's playable and you're comfortable with. So there is more than one way normally to play, but with the pawn a3, I mean with bishop c4, with the pawn already in on a3, I don't want to play c3. That would normally be an option with bishop c4. But having played a3, we can't play c3 as well. It'd be too many pawn weaknesses. So I guess we'll play kind of quiet positional setup here. Queen f3 is something caveman-like. Not really a good square for the piece. Play even bishop a2 here. Prophylactic. e6. You know, you have a couple different options. Black doesn't have to play e6. You can also play like d6 or knight c6 and wait and see what happens. I think knight c3 I'm going to think about here. Normally what we're probably going to do, knight c3, stopping d5. I'm no expert with this with white, but it's a very solid formation for both sides. d3, maybe knight f3. We could try to change the pawn structure. If knight f3, d5, ed, and then like d4 or something. Looks a little suspect, actually. I'm not sure I want to put the knight on f3. Maybe I want to play it like the e2. Depending on what black does, we have a couple different options. But as I said, this is basically like white's playing a defense, as if like lichess played the English opening, and I'm defending with black. Does this weird opening Tuesday prepares you for your big event coming? No. Doesn't prepare me. This is more for fun. I'm going to a tournament next 2 weeks from now in Harkany, Hungary. This is not really one of the things that's going to help me prepare. It doesn't hurt though. But I'm not planning on playing any totally weird openings. I'm planning on playing stuff I know. Knight f3, d5 castles. The problem with knight e2 is I don't have a lot of squares for my queen. But that's also, I think it's also fine. It's really a matter of taste. Maybe better, because here I can't play my f-pawn forward. I have had some trouble with black in these type of formations, and I always sort of underestimated it. So I want to see how someone else deals with the situation where I've kind of had some problems for black. There's a lot of tension in a position, and usually it's not easy to resolve it in a simple way. You know, anybody who like releases the tension is usually making some kind of concession, it seems, in this type of position. It's an interesting lesson. If you encounter an opening that you have trouble against, it's oftentimes something you can try yourself. And I always underestimated this bishop c4 type of stuff. But it has a lot of solidity. But again, I wouldn't want to play this with white, you know, trying to get an opening advantage. It's like a reasonable defense against the English opening with colors reversed. It's not really an offensive setup. Queen d6 is an interesting move. I'm not sure what he's doing with that, though. You know, what does that do? I mean, it looks kind of exposed. Well, first things first, I'm getting my rook off the long diagonal. The only drawback of this move is that it takes away the b1 square from my knight. Because at some lines, I would go like knight b1. And now he's stopping knight b5. He didn't like that. So here, he stopped me from playing bishop f4, which is very annoying. That would be like where I would have put my bishop, probably. It looks like b5 is his plan. And queen d6, quite a move. Bishop g5 doesn't really help. Maybe bishop d2 with the idea of queen c1. It's an odd square for the queen, though. Kind of at a loss here for what to do. I'm going to need to think of something. This file won't hurt. You know, having this file won't hurt me. You know, in some positions I might be able to play e5. I think that's logical. So time pressure. ED, maybe bishop g5, something like that. Does this exchange really benefit me? It would free up the square for my knight on e4, some lines. It's really the only benefit of playing ED, because I am trading off my strong point. I think that Hissidons has played this extremely well. Queen d6 is an interesting piece configuration. I never really considered that for black, but it may be very good. Although on the other hand, maybe I could have played knight b5 or something. I don't know. Worst comes to worst, we could trade probably one of our bishops on e7. It's not so bad. But here it looks like we have queen d2. Oh, I hope I don't lose a piece if I play queen d2. No, of course not, because I have knight d4. Yeah. All right. I'm not used to playing with this type of structure, you know, on this side of it. But we've tried to play very sensible, logical moves. It looks okay. Tension. I'm always in time pressure, guys. Actually, I thought that Hisitnuns was a time pressure guy. But it's harder, though. I have to talk, and that's going to be the main reason why I won't accept rated challenges. Turnaround, thanks for changing the challenge to 8-3, guys. We're definitely going to play like 3 more games. So knight f5, he stops this bishop h6 idea. We have another idea, though. He's headed for d4, though. That's a little concerning. Tactics don't seem to be present here. But I am worried about knight d4. It's kind of a passive move by me. Maybe I should have waited and played bishop f4 there. I didn't see anything with it. And this move gives me additional options. We have like knight f4, possibly. Obviously the rook b1 is a very important component of white's position, defending this pawn on b2. But I think it's a good game by both sides, pretty much. Honestly, I've never really enjoyed playing these positions for black or for his side, whether it's with white or with black. I play the English a lot with white too, so I have to face this bishop c5 sort of closed closed Sicilian with the bishop on c4 or c5. It's pretty annoying. In the past I had very little respect for this setup that I'm playing, but I learned really in the last few years that it's quite okay for him. We are so low on time here. Knight f4. I don't know if that's a good idea. I don't know what is a good idea though. I'm just making a random move. Bishop f4. Knight g5, knight d4. I don't want him playing knight d4. Alright, I'm running out of time. It seems about equal. The time is not equal though. I'm down a minute on the clock. You may have the Grishuk syndrome. What is Grishuk syndrome? You cannot play stuff I know. Oh, we're about to flag. I don't know about this move. Things are getting pretty hairy here. I don't really like my position. But e5 may change my mind. But on the other hand, I don't know. He's weakening the white squares quite a bit there. Pretty double-edged. He does have a lot of space to go along with it, so the space should compensate. I don't know, if this is even a good move. Knight c3. What? Oh man, I don't know what's going on here. This is just too bizarre. Originally I was going to take on c4, then I thought, no, this is not so great. Knight c3 was probably a mistake. Wow, b4. Position just keeps getting like more and more bizarre. What we need here is more tension, really. Wow, that's an interesting square for your queen. Holy crap. Dodging every bullet. Tense game, to say the least. But at the end of the day, the black king is much more open than my king. This looks scary for black. I'm not sure there's any defense. Okay, well, just settled by basically time pressure. He said it was a good game. I don't think that anybody was... If anybody was better, I think it was probably you. So, GG. But interesting. Queen d6 idea. I like that. ARX is challenging me. Yeah, there's my video against Grishuk. I don't know who made that. Strange game I played in Blitz against Grishuk years ago. So, I haven't really analyzed that game very deeply. We were playing white every game. I don't know, whose idea was to troll me again with this troll where I'm white every game? Is our moderator still here? Jeroen? Are you still here? Guys, we're trying to play weird openings. Maybe I should play more f4 or something like that, but we're mostly investigating strange e4 lines today. The Grishuk syndrome. And then the guy puts in my... What's that? Me versus Grishuk. There is a video on YouTube. Me playing Grishuk, not live, but online. ARX, are you with us? Because Alekine's defense. Okay, cool. So I don't have to do anything. I mean, we can just play... we can play... He played the unusual opening. I still don't consider Alekine's defense to be like a reliable opening for black. I don't need to play something crazy here. He's played the unusual opening. I will never consider it to be like a solid choice for black or something like that. But I have played for black a little bit here and there, experimented. But I think it's an opening you have to know very deeply. I didn't really know it that deeply. I played a lot of blitz with it. But that doesn't equate to like hours and hours of study, you know, in the laboratory like you really should with a what's your real repertoire that you play in serious tournament games. So I'm normally playing a lot of exchange variation like c4, knight b6, e takes d, but I don't think it offers white very much. So I think we have to play this. I think there are some side variations that are interesting. I probably should have played c4, c5, honestly, because that's the most fun line. e5, c4, c5. Now knight c6 is supposed to be a mistake. So this could be fun. It's reliable and crazy house. Soroche was not your ideal. Who else could have organized a thing like that? You don't want to take responsibility. This is some kind of piece sacrifice by black. Maybe ARX wanted to try his hand at an unusual opening, but doesn't really know the theory that well. So played knight c6 without any real ideas behind it. But after e6, I mean, it's not that clear. You know, this is a legitimate pawn sacrifice. I think that white has a pretty big advantage, though. So, yeah, maybe it's not that clear isn't really a fair statement. Knight takes e5, and I win a piece on d5 on e6. It's a good trick to know, though. If they play knight c6 too early, you've got to do that. And that's it, man. It's over. Basically over. This pawn is extremely problematic. It's not like he... It's not like I have compensation for his material. He has... You know, he has maximum like 2 pawns for a piece, but they're bad pawns. Or he can let this thorn remain in his side there, which is going to cause an infection. He chose to eliminate it, but yeah, these are not really that relevant pawns to have, so black is toast. More or less like just a clear piece down with the pawn structure the way it is. Guys, we have time for 2, maybe 3 more games, and we have 2 or 3 challenges. Mahmoud from Egypt, please challenge me to a3 with an increment. If you could change your challenge to an incremental challenge, because I don't like it to become like a totally random bullet game at the end. So if you don't mind, please re-challenge me, Mahmoud. It looks more like a blunder than a sack. I agree. No, it's not a sack. It's a blunder. But I was surprised. Why didn't he take with the pawn on e6? Maybe he just didn't see the piece fork. So, yeah, there's no fun for black here with the Irish pawns. That doesn't help his situation. His plight. Yeah, this is what I'm saying. I mean, Alekhine's defense, or any defense that's extremely hyper modern, I don't really recommend for beginners, because you're pushing the envelope against the classical principles a little bit, and I think you should hold off on extremely hyper modern openings till you're like fairly established player. I don't want to say a exact rating, but positionally, you know, h5 would almost kind of like make sense to get rid of his bad bishop, but he's down a piece here, so it's like, okay, that's fine with me. I don't mind trading pieces. I guess I should take on h6, but it gives him access to the d4 square. So it's really not clear to me which is better. I want to keep his pieces bad, keep this rook from having a square. His pawns are all very weak, and now like the f file looks brutal. Black with no counterplay, no pass pawn, no hope of creating a pass pawn really, and we can just force him to make more and more. More and more weaknesses, more and more concessions. This is our extra piece now. Finally entering the game. Everything's in place, you know, like this pawn doesn't give him access to this square, It's useful. So now knight c5 or knight g5. Knight c5 or knight g5. I don't know which one is better. This pawn is pretty tough to protect. I don't think that can be protected. So we definitely have time for 2, maybe 3 games left. But you shouldn't do knight c6. I mean, when I play knight f3 in the opening, black has several really reliable variations. I mean, my adopted countryman Varga Zoltan likes to play like c6 here, you know, but I don't. And no, he actually likes knight b6. He plays knight b6 a lot. That's more interesting. That's the Vargasoli variation. My teammate, or former teammate. Bishop g4 is one of the main lines, and g6. So you need to play one of those moves. There's really not a lot of room for creativity. Knight takes e6 is interesting. Rook takes e6, bishop f5, but then he has like rook d6, and then I have c5. Ooh, that really hurts. You could just take straight away. Ouch. Like, it's pretty nasty. I think that's the cleanest way to take him out. I don't want to take on f6 and improve his pawn structure. Why bother to take on f6 and improve his pawn structure when I can just take on e6 right away? And he has no good way to defend. Okay, he had this intermezzo, but you know, now we can take on f6. Now I don't mind. I mean, if I'm going to be up like a whole rook, it's okay. I don't mind improving your pawn structure. Nice thinking though. Rook takes d3. But I'm up too much. There's this devastating threat of rook f6. Excuse me. The devastating threat of... I also have c5 here. But then rook c6. So rook check. That is rook. We're up a rook. Probably nothing fancy. It's almost getting mated. But I doubt I can force mate here. We content ourselves with the extra rook and grind him down. He can't really afford to give up too much more material. I mean, b4, b5 would be nice. I don't see it really happening by force. Perhaps a rook on the 6th. No way to give mate. It's pretty ugly. It wasn't a good game for black. FM JusticeBot, what's up, man? JusticeBot is back. He's better than ever. And he's still a mod. Be afraid. Rook g6. Let's just activate the last figures. I'd really like to play for mate, but I don't see how to do it here. So we'll just play some sort of routine moves. There's no way to play b4, b5 or checkmate him directly. And we just have to grind him down, as I said. Pretty boring. Yeah, he's not giving up without a fight. There's no way I'm checkmating him here. He's got his king in a very solid... Oh my god, I just hung a rook. I just hung a rook? Wow. That's classic, like taking your opponent too lightly. Oh man. Even material now. Holy shit. Oh my god. Hung a whole rook. Now we have a little bit of a problem. After this rook drop, material is equal, and that's at least a chance to talk about something psychological. When you make a devastating blunder, you have to try to reset yourself and regain your composure. Here he has annoying counterplay, in fact. I'm not just thinking forever here for no good reason. I'm concerned about something I don't want to talk about because I don't want to give him too many hints. Really, I should still be better, but not so easy. Oh, that's really embarrassing. That's the biggest piece drop I've made in a long time. Wow, just did not see it at all. Shit. Alright, knight takes f8. Am I still even winning here? How about like a knight ending? Would that be fun? Play a knight ending. This is a debatable move. Actually, it was a horrible move. I should just take on e5. I tried to reset myself, as I said, but I couldn't do it. I could not do it. I still was affected by the blunder, and I couldn't think rationally. No matter how much I preach it, it was much better to take here. And then on rook h6, for some reason I couldn't see rook back to g5. That's probably a win. Rook takes e5, followed by rook h6, rook g5, rook takes h2, rook takes g4. This is probably good winning chances for me too. But it's not the best move. I mean, it was much better. You know, I'm not certain that I'm winning here. I'm clearly better. But the other variation was I don't know. I was staring at the position for like a minute and I didn't see rook takes e5, rook back to g4. That's really weird. But after dropping a whole rook, I guess it's not that surprising. H4 or centralize the king here. What do you guys like? Take? Man, this is actually kind of tricky. How about like knight e4? Keeping c5 under control. And this looks like a potential zugzwang position. I've got an outside passed pawn lined up, and he has these useless isolated pawns. Now h4. We're off to the races on the queen side, the king side, whatever it is. Knights and rook pawns are notorious friends. Knights love rook pawns. I don't really know why that is, but definitely the case. Very technical position. It's always nice. This happened to me once against Onishuk, how I beat him. The one time I beat him. I told Justice Spot about that before, but basically what happened was I was winning and I was like up a rook at time scramble and I blundered my extra rook. I literally dropped a rook and then like I managed to win a pawn up queen ending. But it was so embarrassing to like just drop a whole rook and you're sitting there like, man, it's a good thing I was up a rook because if I wasn't, I'd be in a lot of trouble right now after dropping a whole rook. Here against ARX, kind of same thing. I drop a whole rook, but I'm still better. Then I have to win the game over again. And that's a good move. Yeah, king d6. King d6, there's still a little bit of hope. Maybe it's winning, but We got this idea of king d6, king takes a5, king c5, and king takes c4. I'm not sure this final position is even winning. Let me see. King d6. It's definitely the best move. Okay, the engine's not going to evaluate this real well. There's a lot of pawns running, and it needs a lot of time. Peter thinks I'm winning, but it doesn't look that simple to me. Let's see. King c5, and then a4. Okay, so a4. We got this 2 outside rook pawns. It's probably winning for white, but it's a little bit touch and go. All right, guys, let's take on Max 123. He's challenged me for 5-5. Just get better than up a rook, and you don't have to worry. It looks like, yeah, it looks like we had just enough there. Okay, Max played b3, and it's nice that somebody played white against me. So b3, cool. Something different. I'm really bored with being white, and then I don't have to play an unusual opening myself, because you guys did it for me. Max, why d4? It sort of defeats the purpose of b3. Defeating the purpose of b3 to put the bishop on a long diagonal. Enunciation has become a thing of the past for me. Well, we could try like a reverse Demer gambit here, but I think that would kind of backfire. I mean, it seems like it makes sense for him. C5. How do we want to play this? What's the best move? I don't know. You could go with like a solid type formation, like a Slav. I don't think the Demer gambit here is real sound. It almost sort of makes b3 look good. c5 certainly okay. Queen's gambit reversed. This is also potentially going to open up his bishop. So you could also play like bishop g4 type of move. But this is fairly fast time control. I can't talk like it's an 8-minute game. I have a tendency to do that, not to really differentiate in the middle of the stream between these games that are like 5 minutes and the games that are 8 minutes. Usual opening confirmed. I'm sort of helping him, I think. You know, maybe he's playing a good Queen's Gambit accepted here. Not a good one, but some sort of one. Yeah, I think now we're happy again. I'm happy to see that. Now he's got a really weird Alekhein's defense with b3. Doesn't work really well for white because the knight doesn't have that square to fall back on. e5. But if we play this in the spirit of Marshall, the Marshall defense or whatever, why do I want to play knight here to stop e4 type counterplay? He doesn't have that though. So probably e5 is fine. I had a similar game the other day actually. I don't remember who it was against. Max? Knight b5 not recommended. So queen a5 check followed by knight c3 and d4. He didn't listen to my recommendation. I had a very, very similar game the other day here. It wasn't against you, was it? Well, there's a game that I won with white. And there's a game that I won with black. Could have been that. Don't recall. I think it was someone else. But, you know, you have to go back to f3. And your position is not that bad. That's what happened the other day. Black is probably slightly better. Well, bishop b4 doesn't cut it. So we have to do this. Forced. I mean, for me, to take the material. Every move, I recommend, you need to try to find the best move in the opening, especially to be incisive and try to find the absolute best move at every point. I think it can be done. I think the opening can be solved. Unlike the rest of the game, you know, you actually have a chance to solve the position in the opening. The rest of the game is, you know, it's impossible to solve chess in the middle game for a human being. But to play perfect moves in the opening, I think that's a realizable type of goal. And it's not easy, and we'll never really get there, but we can get close at least. But Max, you made mistakes, I made mistakes. I mean, b3 is fine, but not with d4. And there, immediately, you know, I'm not sure. e5 may be the best move. Not certain. But I think that Max, honestly, I mean, if we look here, we have a minute to take a look. When I play this move, if you want your bishop to open up, you know, I think that ultimately you have two choices here. You can take on c5 and play a kind of Queen's Gambit accepted, where you're guaranteed your bishop can have some life later on. Or you can play e3 and maintain your center, and hopefully it might open up later on. You get basically a kind of, what do we want to do here? I always talk about trading pieces when I'm up material. Now I'm not trading pieces. This is a little bit eccentric. Yeah, bishop d7. We really want to trade pieces here. We're up a clear piece for a pawn. Knight d7, unnecessarily complicating things, right? Why am I avoiding exchanging pieces? I'm not used to being up a full piece after 10 moves, so my instinct would be like knight d7. We're like in a normal situation where I'm not up a piece, because the bishop on b5 isn't really well placed. But I think, you know, here the tempo is more important. It was him. He should have learned from that mistake, says Shadvet. So it was him, and he didn't, really. Yeah, and he's 2,000. There's no excuse. Trapping his king in the center. Game over. But it's never really game over, because I can be up a rook. But look, last game, I dropped a rook and immediately thought for a long time, still didn't come up with the right move. I think your psychological state of being is very, very, very disturbed when you make a big blunder. I know that's a very deep statement. You guys didn't know that, but we just had a reaffirmation of that fact. I couldn't find rook. No matter how much I stared there for a minute, I didn't see the fact that my rook could take on e5 and go back. I thought he could take on h2 and take on g2 last game fast enough that I didn't have time, but that wasn't the case. Nice try by Max now. He's managed to avoid like having his king stuck in the center, and also avoid really trading too many more pieces. You know, I don't want to give you the impression that trading pieces is the only goal here. I mean, when you're up material, you should just trade pieces no matter what. But it makes life easier, and especially when we have little time like we do here. I'm going to go with this. The knight is arguably dangerous. It could come to c4 maybe. So Max is is being kind of a menace. He's being kind of a menace. Despite being down a piece, practical player. He's maintaining pressure on e5. I'm tied down to that. And now, well, should I trade rooks or not? Well, maybe. Maybe on your terms. Not on your terms, on my terms. I'm crazy. I want to trade on my terms. This is problematic. This is really problematic. Ay. Max is starting to get some counterplay. I might have to give back a second pawn to break this pressure he has. Important concept is very often the case when you're up material, giving some back at the right moment. I mean, I may not have a choice here. We may not have a choice. So what's the best way to give the material back? Well, I know one thing, that bishop on b2 is a piece I'd like to get rid of. If queen b5, I would have probably had to play knight d4 and jettison a pawn, basically. But I don't really like bishop a3. Rook takes d2. Now, bishop a3 takes all the pressure off that key point on e5. You had some play there. Queen b5. I probably have to give back a pawn with knight d4, bishop takes d4, pawn takes d4, and things are not that clear. But now we have some counterplay. We have the knight coming to d4. I think white's just lost. But in that other variation, things were getting a little bit hairy. Queen c3 doesn't seem to do anything. Maybe it does. Queen c3, knight d4. Queen c3, king b1, knight d4. I guess that's good too. But Max is pretty fast. I mean, what he lacks in material, he makes up for in speed. Guys, we have time for at least one more game against Trinaran, and if that's a short game, then I could probably play Mahmoud too, but we'll see. I don't think I'm going to get to play 2 games. It'll probably be just one, because these are long games. So with the 8-3 time control, we'll probably play just one more opponent. Waiting for the next rook drop. A rook drop would be probably fatal here for me. I end up just down the exchange and a pawn. Not looking too good. I'd be scrambling for a draw. Max, you don't have that many choices here, buddy. Think you can find the answer. There it is. Okay, now for my next trick. What is my next trick, anyway? Just like keep my extra pawns. Nothing fancy. There is no next trick. I'm just hanging on to my material. No mate, nothing fancy. Let's not get carried away. Maybe I can get my queen trap. This is a stupid move, a6. But not so bad, I guess. I just want to make a quick move. I don't like the pawn like constantly being attacked. And it's not so bad, but hopefully my queen doesn't get trapped or something. This is how Max plays like when he's down a piece. Imagine what he plays like when he's not down a piece. He's putting up a real fight down a piece. Now, not any longer. That's twice protected. And that is protected too. Just went on. He went on an orgy of piece drops. Okay, Trinaran finally got the challenge right. We've never played him before. Let's hope that he's established rating here. Why do I not see anything? Trinaran, good. All right, you got 30 games, 150 games. I just don't want to play anybody who just like created a new account. Trinaran, if Trinaran doesn't move in like the next 45 seconds, I'll probably accept a different challenge. This is going to be the last game for today. What are you doing, Justice Bot? Are you going to be streaming today? It's pretty late. Must be pretty late for you. This is the last game for me today. I'll be back tomorrow, Thursday, 10 a.m. CET. More blitz and classical chess. Less rook drops. Normal openings tomorrow. Okay, Trinaran is... Man, he waited a long time for this challenge. I feel bad, but... It's like he says thank you for the game. Well, you're up, man. Good. I didn't want to like abort the game. Unusual openings. Now, it looks like the onus is on me, so... We've seen an Alekhine's defense today. Okay, just for you guys. I never normally bust it out in the Wednesday stream, but I'm going to play the legendary Knight H6. This isn't a specialty of mine. It's not sound really, but as you can imagine, but it's kind of a favorite opening of mine. I've analyzed it and played it quite a bit. Inspiration. And inspiration. I have pretty good results with this opening in blitz against fairly strong players. Have taken out quite a number of title players. People don't react well when encountering Knight H6 in general. But Trinaran kept his head and played a very solid variation. With Knight to C3 now, we could play C6 and transpose to a kind of Gurgenidze Caro-Kann, or we can take Knight takes E4, leaving us in a really weird Caro. I think C6 is better. D takes E4, not so great. So we can transpose to a kind of rat type formation, basically, in a lot of lines. But Knight C3 isn't really the critical move. I mean, I think that I don't really like bishop takes H6 for white, although it's playable and interesting. I think the most critical is probably taking on D5, which I call the 3 a.m. variation. This is my speciality, like E takes D, Knight F5 for black. That's the basic idea. Now we transpose to a kind of modern. The position's actually not a main line, I guess, but fairly standard kind of Gurgenidze idea. I'll be streaming soon enough, planning for Friday evening simuls. So, okay, I mean, this is actually now not really an unorthodox opening any longer. I had a funny game in the first Saturday Grandmaster tournament. The most serious game where I've ever played Knight H6, and this young FIDE master, like, he didn't know what to do, so he just like transposed somehow into a C3 Sicilian. It's sort of unbelievable, but after E4 Knight H6 in a serious GM tournament game, the game transposed to a C3 Sicilian, and I had a pretty good position, but it ended in a draw. Bishop E2. I don't know this line that well for black, but I don't think giving up the center is the right idea. So I also don't think giving up my white squared bishop is a great idea here. I think I have to play F6. This is the rat, basically. The rat idea. Playing Knight F7. I imagine we'll find some I don't know, Duncan Suttle's games or something. If we look hard enough. Lawrence Day. Who knows? There's a lot of weird old Canadian IMs who played like this. Was Suttles a GM? I guess Suttles was a GM though. Boring chess. This is not boring. I played knight h6 on the first move. What do you want? What do you want in life? If not to watch a serious chess player play knight h6 on the first move. I love it, man. This is what the unorthodox opening stream is all about. This is about as extreme as I can go. Now h3, I don't think he needs to do that. It's not a bad move though. I'm not really going to be playing bishop g4 once I play this squishy looking structure. I don't think I can afford to give up my... Maybe I need to develop here. Although knight f7 is okay. White is better. I mean, there's no question. Sometimes Caro-Kann players... let's see, how else can we reach this type of setup? So, I once had a similar position against Joel Benjamin with white, and I did something like what Trinaren's doing here. We had a very similar game, except Joel's queen was on b6, and I played like... How did that work, actually? It's been like queen b6, rook b1. No, I guess my pawn... No, it was different because my pawn was on c3. Yeah, I must have played totally different. Not a knight on c3. Alright. e5 is not possible. Bishop g7 is the right move. I have to be able to meet like pawn takes pawn, knight b5 with e5 probably. Guys, this last game for the stream today. We're going to be back tomorrow, 10 a.m. CET, and Friday as well. Sunday simul is when I do the simul. 25 players. Sorry, last week we couldn't do it because of a bug on lichess. It will be running smoothly this week. 6:30 p.m. on Sundays, I do my simul. There will be a downtime for the stream, guys. In 2 weeks, I'm going to go to Harkine, play in a regular over-the-board tournament, and I won't be streaming between November 17th and November 24th. You guys can keep yourselves entertained with the World Championship. The greatest World Championship, Chess World Championship ever. Karyakin. I was just saying, Justice Bot, when was the last time was there like a really good World Chess Championship? I think we'd have to go back to like before you were born. The world has not seen... The last great one I thought was, as I said earlier in the stream, maybe like Kramnik Topalov. It's not all that long ago. Like, what is it, like 8 years ago? When did Kramnik play Topalov? That wasn't a kind of epic match with the controversy and Toilet Gate. Still, the match was pretty good. White's playing very solidly. I never played Trinaren before. He's 2100 in classical, 1900. But just keeping the tension is starting to get on my nerves here. And we don't have enough protection to play e5, and I don't want to give up the center. Not really an expert on this type of Caro-Kann. Just gonna have to think for ourselves. I don't know, bishop h2, he's avoiding e5 happening with tempo, so that's a very subtle move. Not really sure what I'm supposed to do here. I'm at a loss. Everything seems to be good for white. Knight a6. b6. Very easy for white to play this position. Don't see a really good move. I said that already. Maybe bishop e6. I really don't know what else to do. It's pretty awkward. This feels very awkward, but I want to develop my pieces and I want to reinforce d5 and I don't want to give up the tension. Tournament is 1900 in blitz, 2100 in classical. I've never played him before. That's best move. So far he's played perfectly, in my opinion. Now maybe knight to d6. Knight d6 doesn't develop any pieces, but I'm concerned about positional factors here. So knight d7, pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn. Queen c8 is interesting, protecting my bishop on e6. White can just improve the position there. Let's see, knight d6, pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn. Bishop takes d6. Probably not so bad. That's pretty bad, actually. Queen takes, knight b5 with tactics. Yeah, white is playing perfectly. Knight d7, pawn takes pawn, pawn takes pawn. Bishop discoveries, probably win. I'm regretting bishop e6, but I didn't know what else to do there, honestly. Rook e8. If I don't find something new, If I don't find something soon, I'm going to start freaking out. We might have to give up the center and trade some pieces. My position looks pretty dubious, though. Looks like we have to play something horrific. Maybe knight d6, take, bishop takes. Knight takes, pawn takes. Not so bad. I'm definitely not an expert in the rat defense. You don't get like this kind of positional play very often by white. So white is better here. We're down to 35 seconds. Under a lot of pressure. I won't say I'm lost, but clearly an unpleasant position for black. I wouldn't want to repeat it. I would definitely vary. Bishop e6 wasn't a move I was real happy with. White's exploited this very, very well thus far. His knight on f3 doesn't have a really great future. Maybe queen d7 now. Knight c6 should be okay. Queen d7 allows... what? I don't know how white could play any better, honestly. Not too many center pawns lost here. Just hanging on by a thread. Way over time. Yeah. King f7. Well, he can't be that good of a tactician because his positional play is perfect. So he would be like 2,500 at least if he was as good tactically as he is positionally. So hopefully he makes some kind of miscalculation. Turnaround. Don't know where he's from. Oh, Spanish. Well, this is pretty scary for me. But it looks like we're hanging on, honestly. It's very unpleasant for black, but it's probably defensible. Barely. It's very unpleasant. I said that. Alrighty, I don't wanna play this position again. Please. Losing my mouse. Whoa. Almost lost our mouse there. It's a good thing he didn't move right away. So I don't want to see this position again anytime soon. This is a safe move. That's a safe move too. How about e5? It's not happening here. Man. This guy is strong. We're just barely alive. I think h6 kind of debatable. Wow, he totally missed an incredible move there. This is a blunder. I'm just kind of panicking. g4. I had blundered. h6 was really bad. I should have played h5. I guess he's calculated this ending is better for him. Look at this. Pretty insightful. Wow, knight h4 right away. Well, that's interesting. I didn't see that. It's even better than I imagined. That's an improvement. Now what, like knight e7? Wow, he's so fast I can barely even move. Plays perfectly. 2100. Bishop e5 now. Well, this is a debatable decision I took there. Yeah, interesting game, man. Pretty well played. I shouldn't have played the last blunder though. I'm fine here probably after this. Maybe not. That's a nice quality game you got there. I think there's not too many center pawns lost for that one. GG. We'll see you guys later, and we'll be back tomorrow with interesting chess 10 a.m. CET. Thanks to Jeroen for joining me, and thanks for everybody. Those of you that supported the stream. We'll be back with Dead Mouse. According to Night Emprise. I don't know. But have fun, and thanks for playing. Thanks, Jeroen, again. Bye-bye, guys. See you tomorrow.